Awesome. Okay. All right, so number 2 falls into the category of being a coterminal angle. So I'm still working with cosine. I'm not working with a reciprocal. I'm still working with cosine. But that angle right there is smaller than 0. So because it's smaller than 0, it's a coterminal angle. All right, so I'm going to start one of 2 ways. You can either change it by adding 2 pi, or you can draw a picture of it. And whichever way you like better is perfectly fine with me. I don't care which way you go. Let me show you both. Okay, if you want to work with it as a coterminal angle, I'm going to take my negative pi over 4, and just like we did on the test last week, I'm going to say that it's too small, so I want to add, and I want to add 2 pi, which would be the same thing as 8 pi over 4. Okay. So 2 pi is the same thing as 8 pi over 4, or 6 pi over 3, or 12 pi over 6. Okay, so just like you did on the test last week. Okay, if I add those together, I get 7 pi over 4. Okay, so really what I'm doing here is I'm finding the cosine of 7 pi over 4. All right, if you would prefer to draw these, I can do that as well. I know that I measure negative angles in a clockwise direction. So yesterday we worked with all those positive angles in a counterclockwise direction. Today I'm going to go negative, I'm going to go clockwise. And I'm going to say that negative pi over 4 is just 1 pi over 4 right here, which is the same thing as 7 pi over 4. Okay, so again, whichever way you like better, go with it. You can either add and subtract, or you can draw a picture. All right, so look at your unit circle. I know that I'm working with cosine, which is x. So I want to find my x value at 7 pi over 4. So what's my cosine of 7 pi over 4 going to be? That's right, the square root of 2 over 2. Good. Cosine is x. Since cosine is x, then I'm going to be working with the square root of 2 over 2 as my answer. So this is going to be the square root of 2 over 2. Good. Questions on that one? Okay, so again, same thing we did yesterday. We just have to go and find first which angle it corresponds to on here. Okay, then we can actually answer the question. Okay, let's jump down and try number 11. Okay, so number 11, also too small. Okay, so I'm going to add. You can choose if you want to add or draw. So I'm going to add, and I'm going to take my negative 5 pi over 6, and I'm going to add 2 pi, which 2 pi would be the same thing as 12 pi over 6. All right, so if I do negative 5 plus 12, that's right, I end up at 7 pi over 6. Good. Okay, so really what I'm finding here is the sine of 7 pi over 6. Because remember last week we talked about that coterminal angles are the same angle, just with a different name. Okay, so those are the same angles, just with a different name. Okay, if you wanted to draw on this one, I would say that, think back, yesterday we talked about that this is 0, and this is 1 pi, or 6 pi over 6, which would be the same thing as negative 6 pi over 6. So if I'm going to measure clockwise, 5 pi over 6 would be this one right here. Okay, so again, whether you want to draw or you want to add is completely up to you. Okay, and next week when we start doing some stuff without the whole big circle, you may prefer drawing. Even though you may prefer adding today, you may prefer drawing next week. You'll see. Whichever way is fine. Okay, so I'm going to go to 7 pi over 6 on my unit circle. I'm going to look at sine. I know sine is y. So what's my y value at 7 pi over 6? That's right. Good. Negative 1/2 right here. Good. Okay. So I'm looking at 7 pi over 6. I want sine. Sine is y. And so my y value is negative 1/2. Good. Okay. All right, let's see here. Let me let you try one. Let's try number 21. Give number 21 a try. This time you're working in degrees on 21. A little bit different. Give that one a try. Check your angle that you're working with. If you're ready to check your angle, not necessarily your value. Whether you wanted to add or if you wanted to draw. So this is how I would draw right here. Okay, if I was going to add, I would add 360. It's too small, so I'm going to add 360. So negative 315 plus 360 gives me 45 degrees. So we're finding the sine of 45 degrees. All right, so look at your unit circle, find your value. Sine is y. So I'm going to look at 45 degrees. I'm going to look over here at y. And my answer is going to be positive square root of 2 over 2. So let's see, we're right up here. Square root of 2 over 2. Okay, last one. Let's do number 27 together. I want to do number 27 because this time rather than being too small, it's too big. And I know that it's too big because it is bigger than 360. Okay, so if you're working in degrees, it's bigger than 360, or if you're working in radians, it's going to be something bigger than 2 pi. Okay, so 2 pi or 12 pi over 6, 6 pi over 3, or 8 pi over 4. That might be a good thing to write down kind of at the top of this worksheet. Let's remember that 2 pi is the same thing as 12 pi over 6, or 8 pi over 4, or 6 pi over 3. So as you're working with those coterminal angles and you're talking about something that's too big or too small, or if you're trying to add and subtract, those are the numbers that you want to use to help you out with 2 pi. So those are my common denominators for 2 pi. So that might be a good reminder to write up at the top of that one. Okay. All right, so let me jump back down here again. I know this one's too big because it's bigger than 360. So this time I'm going to take my 405 and I'm going to subtract 360. And then I'm back to my 45 degree angle. Okay. Or if you like radians better, you could always convert that into radians and then work with it, your choice. Okay. All right, if I'm going to draw this one, I know if I go all the way around once, I'm at 360. If I go back up here, I'm at 450, so I know 405 is going to be kind of right there in the middle. So there's my 405 degree angle right there. Okay, so again, if you'd rather draw or add or subtract, it doesn't matter. Okay, but I'm going to be finding the sine of 45, which is the same thing we just did on 21. That's going to be the square root of 2 over 2. So again, go to your 45 degree angle, and sine is y. So 45 degrees, back up there, sine is y. Good. Thank you very much. You too. Have a good weekend. Good. Okay. Okay, let's talk about some reciprocals. Flip over to worksheet number 2 for me for just a minute. All right, let me start by reminding you that sine and cosecant are reciprocals of each other. And cosine and secant, and tangent and cotangent. Okay, so as you work with these, if you're given a cosecant question, we're going to work sine, or a secant question, work cosine, or a cotangent question, work with tangent. Okay. You've also probably noticed that we have kind of a finite number of things that we're working with here. Okay, so like as we answer questions, my answers are often 1/2 the square root of 3 over 2 or the square root of 2 over 2 when we're talking about sine and cosine, right? Those are kind of the only values that you use, and you use them over and over again. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. So I thought we'd also make a list real quick of what happens when you flip these upside down. Okay, so if I'm finding the reciprocal of 1/2, when I flip that upside down, I'm going to get 2. If you take the square root of 3 over 2 and flip it upside down, you end up with 2 square roots of 3 over 3. Okay, and if you get to a test and you're stuck, you can always do the math on that. So you start with 2 over the square root of 3, and then rationalize your denominator. And you end up with this. Okay. The square root of 2 over 2 flipped upside down is the square root of 2. Because if you flip that, you get 2 over the square root of 2. And then when you rationalize your denominator, you get 2 square roots of 2 over 2, and some of those 2's start to cancel out. Okay. With your tangent values, the square root of 3 over 3 and the square root of 3 are reciprocals of each other. Okay, so that's one that you'll use a lot for tangents. So they are actually reciprocals of each other. Okay. What's the reciprocal of 1? Just 1. Yeah, when you flip 1 upside down, it's still just 1. Okay. And then 0 and undefined are reciprocals of each other. Okay, so if you're working with a quadrantal and you have 0 or undefined, they're reciprocals of each other, because 0 over 1 is 0 and 1 over 0 is undefined. So they're reciprocals of each other. Okay. As you're working with these, if cosine is negative, secant is also negative. Okay, so the sign of it doesn't change. It's still going to be negative if your original is negative, and I'll show you what I mean on that. Okay, so having all of that information, let's start with number 4. Okay, so number 4 is going to be, sorry, same worksheet, number 4. I don't know why I flipped over. Number 4, it's going to be a quadrantal. Okay, so pi over 2 is up here where I have 90 degrees, and I have the point 0, 1. Okay, I know that cosecant goes with sine. So I'm going to start by finding the sine of pi over 2. So if sine is y, what's the sine of pi over 2 going to be? Sine is y. 1. That's right. Good. Okay, if I take that 1 and flip it upside down, I still have 1. Okay, because the reciprocal of 1 flipped upside down is still 1. Okay. By the way, there are some problems on this worksheet that go back to just what we were doing yesterday. Like this one, you don't need to flip. Just find the cosine of pi over 3. Or this one, just find the sine of 7 pi over 6. You don't need to flip them upside down. They're just regular old problems like we did yesterday. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Let's jump down and take a look at number 11. Get a little harder here. Okay, on number 11, I know that cosine is the reciprocal of secant. Okay, so I'm going to start with cosine. So I'm going to find the cosine of 4 pi over 3. Okay, cosine is x. So I'm going to go to 4 pi over 3 right here. And I'm going to find x right here. And so I'm going to be working with negative 1/2 for my cosine value. So cosine is x, so 4 pi over 3's x is negative 1/2. Okay, so if cosine is negative 1/2, what's my secant value going to be? Negative 2. That's right, good. So it keeps the sign with it. If cosine is negative, secant will also be negative. Okay, good. All right, let's see here. do one more. Let's put both of these things together. Let's jump down to number 27. Okay, on 27, my angle is too big, and I'm working with a reciprocal. Okay, so let me work with my angle being too big first. So if it's too big, I'm going to take that 495 and I'm going to subtract 360, and that's going to give me 135 degrees. I'm going to start by finding my coterminal angle by subtracting 360. Okay. Now, rather than find cosecant, I'm going to find sine. Okay, so first I'm going to find sine. So I'm going to do the sine of 135 degrees. Okay, sine is y. I'm going to look on here, and at 135 degrees, I see that my y value is the square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so my sine value is going to be the square root of 2 over 2. It's positive. So if sine is positive, cosecant is also going to be positive. And what do I get when I flip the square root of 2 over 2 over? Yeah, good. Just that square root of 2. Good. Okay. So what I'd like for you to try for the rest of the time is these 10 questions right here. And when you're finished, you can just bring them up to me, and we'll do a little classwork grade. I'll check them real quick, and then we'll do a little grade. So if you want to flip over on worksheet number 1, circle numbers 16, 18, 20, 23, and 25. 16, 18, 20, 23, and 25. And on worksheet number 2, you have 2, 5, 9, 19, and 36. 2, 5, 9, 19, and 36. Very good. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can let me know. You can bring those to me when you're finished. And then your homework is just to finish worksheet number 1, which I think after you've done these 5 and the ones you had last night, I think you end up with like you have 4 left or something like that. So it's not very much. So just finish worksheet number 1 for homework. We'll work some more on worksheet number 2 on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we'll just get some more practice with this, and I'm going to show you how to do it without using the whole unit circle. So on Tuesday, I'm going to take the unit circle away from you. I'm going to show you how to do it without. On Wednesday, we're going to take a little quiz so that you can see what the test is going to look like, so you'll be ready for that. On Thursday, I'd like to try to do a Kahoot. So if you don't have Kahoot on your phone, try to download that. And on Friday, we'll take the test. Okay, so just the same thing really for all of next week again. Okay? Okay, y'all can work together. Check your answers together, all of that kind of stuff. And bring that to me when you're finished. If you're absent, there is a place to submit this on Schoology. So work those 10 problems, submit on Schoology.